Hello and welcome to Varsity Maine Live, presented by Central Maine Power for the Portland Press Herald. I am Travis Lazarzik, and tonight I am joined by two of my colleagues from newspapers around the state. From the Central Maine newspapers, the Kennebec Journal and Morning Sentinel, we have Mike Mandel, and from the Forecaster, we have Michael Hoffer. It's an almost all Michael show tonight. Our guest is not named Mike or Michael, but she is one of the top players in the number one seed in Class D South girls soccer. They're the defending state champions, and they're going to go for a back-to-back beginning next week when they host St. Dominic's in the regional quarterfinals. Angel Huntsman, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's go back to a game that was earlier this season that was kind of a defining game for your team this year, the 4-1 win over Yarmouth. First time I think you guys had ever beaten your crosstown rivals and a contender in Class B. You guys obviously knew you had a good team, but what does a game like that do to kind of keep things going?
It was definitely a milestone for us. I know I've been looking forward to this game all year, and every year we played against this team, and every year we've lost or tied. It was always been a really close game, and for it being my season and my fellow teammates' senior seasons as well, who has been with me by my side all 4 years, this was the biggest game of our lives, really. And yeah, it felt great.
Michael or Mike, jump on in.
Mike, go ahead.
Oh well, yeah, Angel. It's been kind of a weird few years for you guys. But this is an NYA soccer program that Travis mentioned that you're going back to back. I believe you guys actually won in 2019 before the pandemic season in 2020. So it's kind of you're going through a third or maybe even fourth in a row. What's been the key to this program's success over the years with so many players who have come in?
All the credit really goes to our coach, Ricky. He's been here for over 5 years now, and 4 of the years he's won a state title, and possibly 4. And really, he's been the key to our success for years now, and really all the credit goes to him.
Angel, I know every player has different types of motivation, but you told me after the Yarmouth win that you had a chip on your shoulder in that game. You were playing mad. Is that something that's a frequent occurrence for you, or was that just kind of a one-time thing for that kind of a game?
No, actually. So that is kind of like an ongoing joke with my team. I do play mad, but it's also whenever, if, say, I have a good game, my friends would be like, "Oh, you were playing mad, weren't you?" It's my way of saying I was motivated. And during the Yarmouth game, I was very motivated. I wanted to prove that we're the better team.
Right. Because last year you guys almost beat them. You tied, but you probably should have won that game. And then it's such a huge step for you to take that this year. And you've won 25 games in a row. You have a 34-game unbeaten streak. You've won 3 straight state titles. How much pride do you take in keeping all those things going? And I mean, at this point, a loss kind of ruins everything this year, and it would ruin those streaks too. So how badly do you want to see that through the rest of the way?
Yeah, our coach, Ricky, he's saying it doesn't really matter if we have an undefeated season, not unless we win the 18th game. Right. And last year the only game that we lost was the tie against Yarmouth. Right. And this year we were like, you know what, we're not going to lose. We're going all the way without losing, and we're going to make it to the 18th game.
Angel, let's switch to basketball. You've chosen Bates College to attend for your college career, and you're wearing the hoodie, showing that off. And you're going to play basketball at Bates rather than soccer. What went into that decision?
Well, the coach, Allison Montgomery, really drawn me into the Bates community, and I've always known really that I wanted to play basketball. And it doesn't mean I don't love soccer. It just means that I see myself being more contributive in basketball, and I love the sport, and the coach really just draw me into the school.
Angel, it's been a few crazy years for basketball. I mean, it go back to 2021 where it was everybody was just playing alone in gyms. There was no fanfare. Last year, a lot of teams had to went remote and they would lose games for weeks at a time. There were some teams that didn't allow home fans. You were wearing masks the whole year. It's looking like it's going to be a much more of a pre 2020 pandemic type of season this year. What are you looking forward to most about this season?
Being on a court without a mask on and having fans and family come to our games and cheering us on, playing against teams, and the rules being normal. No more of those no jump balls that we had to do the pandemic year, and play real basketball. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, you guys had such a great season last year. I remember that Saturday morning at the Augusta Civic Center. You had a big lead on Halldale early. You let it slip away. I'm sure that's a tough loss that, knowing you, it probably still gnaws at you a little bit. How badly do you want to make a run with basketball? I mean, NYA's won a lot of girls' soccer titles. You've never won one in girls' basketball. How badly would you like to be the point guard that leads the team to that accomplishment?
Right after soccer season, my full focus is going to be basketball. And last year we were cut short, and I still have not been able to watch the second half of that game, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
And I'm really hoping that this year we're going to make it all the way, and I really think we can.
So
we just need to stay focused and all be together with this same goal.
Great. Well, Angel, I'm sure you're looking forward to basketball season, but you have some big soccer games ahead of you in the coming weeks, so good luck there. And thanks for joining us tonight, Angel Huntsman from North Yarmouth Academy.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck, Angel.
We now will move on to Athletes of the Week. We'll start with Madeline Wagner from Winthrop Field Hockey. She scored 3 goals in each of the Ramblers' 2 victories in the past week. Jordan Bissonette from Sanford Football. The junior ran for 189 yards on 36 carries and scored 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground and a third on a 19-yard pass from Alex Savigny as the Spartans beat Marshwood 20-7. Abby Williams from Waterville Cross Country. Williams won the KVAC Class BC Championship with a time of 20 minutes, 34.7 seconds at Coney High. Mando, I think you covered those races. What can you tell us about Abby's day?
Well, she was not only did she win the small school race, but she won the entire. She was the top finisher in the entire girls' field. And it was the second year in a row. She's won the KVAC small school meet. And this comes on the heels of she had a great showing at the Festival of Champions in Belfast earlier this month too. She took 8th in a field of 533 runners as one of just 9 who finished with a sub 19-minute time. So she's having a great year. And that was a tough race too. I mean. I was talking with Sean Totman, the Coney Cross Country coach, about how 24 hours before that race they were in Coney High School was without power. They had been absolutely pummeled by that storm. They had to go on the cross country course in the morning and it takes some saws to chop up some of the trees and get them off the court. Move some of the water just to make it runnable. It was just a crazy day overall. Thinking of where we were 24 hours earlier, whether we were even able to have sports at all on Saturday, and it ended up being a very good day. A few slips and falls, but I wouldn't say anything different than the typical post rain cross country type of meet.
Keep the puddles and make it a steeplechase, right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Dom Napolitano from Coney Football. The quarterback ran for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns and also had a 60-yard fumble return for a score and a win over Gardner. Taylor Torrey, Chevers Field Hockey. Torrey scored 4 goals Monday in the Stags' 10-1 victory over South Portland. Morgan Thibodeau from Mount Abram Boys Soccer. He scored 8 goals in the Roadrunners' 3 most recent wins. Cassidy Clark, Gardner Field Hockey. She made 9 saves, leading Gardner to a 2-0 victory over Class B South contender Levitt. Robbie Feeney, Winthrop Monmouth Halldale Football. Feeney turned an interception and then a fumble for a touchdown in the 4th quarter of the Ramblers' 28-3 win over Poland on Saturday. He had 2 interceptions in the game and finished with a team-high 9 tackles. Grace Gray from Cape Elizabeth Field Hockey. Gray scored 5 goals, leading the Capers to a 5-0 victory over Gray New Gloucester NYA. Michael, Cape Elizabeth with 12 wins. I think that's a season best for the Capers.
It is an all-time program best, which is hard to believe because they've had a lot of success over the years. They've won championships, they've won regional titles. Last year's team that kind of broke through won 11-2-1 in the regular season, but no Cape team had ever gone 12-2 until this year's team did it. And, obviously Grace Gray is the centerpiece of what they do. She had a phenomenal year last year. She scores a ton of goals, but she's very unselfish. I mean, she's kind of a coach's dream in where, she'll take care of business and score her share of goals, but she's always looking to set up her teammates, and she'll even hustle back and play defense when needed. And these Capers are kind of on a mission. That region is very interesting because, Capes won 12 games, but their 2 losses, they haven't been able to solve York. And I think to get to where they want to get, they're going to have to figure them out here in the next couple of weeks because I think York's going to be the team to beat.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Jameer Rose, Noble football. Rose ran for 4 touchdowns, including one of 95 yards, as Noble won its first game of the season, beating Deering 33-0. Abby Thornton from Wyndham Girls Soccer. Thornton scored 3 goals and added 4 assists in an 8-0 win over Noble. Eli Soren from Oxford Hills football. The Vikings senior quarterback completed all 7 of his first half passes for 196 yards and 3 touchdowns in a 42-7 win against Wyndham. And finally, Jacob Adams, Freiburg Academy boys soccer, a senior. Adams scored 2 goals in Freiburg's 3-2 win against Lake Region, which improved the Raiders' record to 9-5. Congratulations to all this week's Athletes of the Week. We have polls. You can check these out on varsitymaine.com. These are voted on by sports writers from around the Maine Today media community and the state. We'll start this week, guys, with girls soccer. Number 1, no surprise, Scarborough. 6 of the 7 first place votes and 69 points. Number 2, Gorham picking up that other first place vote and 62 points. Number 3, Cape Elizabeth, 56 points. Number 4, Brunswick with 46 points. And finally, defending Class A state champion Wyndham with 44 points comes in 5th. Michael Hoffer, I'll ask you, Scarborough probably a favorite going into the Class A South tournament, though it's going to be a tight field. And they recently had a couple players set some big scoring marks.
Yeah, to say the least. Ali Makruski and Laura, Alana Juranovic are kind of rewriting the record books right now for the Red Storm. Makruski has the new program record for career points. She eclipsed what Maureen McHugh did, and she was class of 2002, so that record had stood for 20 years. But between the two of them, they hold the single season, the career records for goals, assists, points, and a lot of those have come this year where Scarborough's beaten every team on the list. They did not play Gorham in the regular season, so that makes for kind of an interesting scenario. If the teams do match up, it would be to the regional final. Both Scarborough and Gorham beat Wyndham early on, but it seems like Wyndham's peaking. They're the reigning champs, and of course with Deb LaBelle at the helm, she's won several state titles. You can't rule Wyndham out. I don't think anyone's going to want to have to play them in the playoffs. But Scarborough's feeling very good about their chances, and it's been 10 years.
Okay. Thanks, Michael. Boys soccer, number 1, Edward Little moves into the first place after Scarborough lost in their regular season finale. Edward Little has 4 first place votes and 64 points. Number 2, Scarborough, who had been number 1 for a while, lost to Deering, like I said earlier this week. They have 1 first place vote and 62 points. Number 3 is Cape Elizabeth with a pair of first place votes and 61 points. Number 4, Mount Ararat at 45 points. And number 5, Deering at 42. Mike Mandel, a team I want to mention is one that's just outside our poll week after week, and I'm trying to figure out why. The Winslow boys soccer team is 13-0-1, going to be the number 2 seed, I think, in the North B. They went to the state game last year. They just keep rolling teams this year. I put them in 8th place in my poll this week. What you've seen the Black Raiders? What are they doing, and what makes them a contender again?
Well, they have one of the they have a one of a if one of if not one of the 2 or 3 best players in the state in Andrew Poulin. This kid is setting records left and right. Speaking of players who do that, he scored 7 goals September 20th against Belfast. September 24th, he broke the school's career scoring record with the 72nd goal. October 7th, he scored 5 to break his own single season record of 33, which he set last year. And then last week, he scored his 100th career goal against Oceanside, becoming just the ninth player, in Maine high school boys soccer history to do so. And sometimes teams have to key in on him so much that it opens up for some of their other players, such as Joey Richards, who scored twice in their game against Winslow against Waterville, earlier this week. And so they don't have quite the massive roster that keyed them to success last year, but they do have a lot of talent, especially with him. Something to watch going forward. He's at 46 goals now. 52 is the state single season record set by Damon Warren, whose career I covered at Sumner from 2016 to 2019. So it'll be tougher this year with no open tournament game, but if they keep winning, he has a shot to add his name to an even other piece of history.
All right. Thanks, Mike. The field hockey poll this week, number 1, again, no surprise, it's Cheverus, all 6 first place votes with 60 points. Number 2, Skowhegan with 54 points. Number 3, Biddeford at 41 points. Number 4, Scarborough at 40. And finally, number 5, Lawrence at 38. Michael Hoffer, Cheverus, Skowhegan seem to still be on a collision course.
Well, we should be so lucky, because that would be, I think, an epic all-time state final. I know Skowhegan feels like they're probably not getting much respect right now, where they're usually the first team everyone talks about. But this year, with Cheverus being so dominant and being the defending champ and beating Skowhegan relatively handily in last year's state final, for good, they're November 5th.
Okay. Michael, thank you. Finally, football. Number 1, Oxford Hills, all 8 first place votes and 80 points. Number 2, Thornton. They move up from 4th last week to 2nd at 70 points. Number 3, Levitt at 65 points. Number 4, Skowhegan drops from 2 to 4 at 54 points. Number 5, Coney at 40 points. Mike Mandel, can Coney hang with Skowhegan in the playoffs? Coney's 2 losses are the 2 of our top 4 teams, Oxford Hills and Skowhegan. They've just kind of been sneaking up the pole here each week.
Well, Coney's problem the first time against Skowhegan was inability to finish. They took the ball inside the Skowhegan 30-yard line 3 times and were unable to come away with any points. So they left some points on the board there and hung with them late. The key thing about Skowhegan is that in that game, they had 1 play longer than 20 yards. It was not a use a big play game. It was a lot of little plays, those 5 or 6 yard runs, those short passes that got them there. And then they had of course a Hail Mary pass right before halftime. Had that not been caught, it would have been a 6-0 lead going into halftime. And Coney, since that game, they followed that week with a 34-10 win over Windham, which I think turned some heads across all corners of the state, from here in Central Maine to you guys down in the Portland area. And since then, they've rattled off 3 more wins. They have an interesting team again. They have a game against a Falmouth team that's a really interesting matchup. You can read my preview article on centralmaine.com right now. Falmouth is an interesting team too, because they were maybe not expected to do as well as they were after Greeley, who had a couple of impact players split off to form their own team. But they have some big linemen, 2 guys who are basically 6'4", 300, and a bunch of other guys who are coming back from injury. So that's going to be a really good test to see the winner of that game probably getting the number 2 against Skowhegan and having the inside track for a matchup against the Riverhawks in the Class B North Championship game. So Coney will have to step it up to compete with Skowhegan. I think anybody will, but they seem to be on a roll and going into these playoffs, and they can add to that tomorrow night against Falmouth.
Okay, thank you, Mike. We have playoffs starting, I think, tomorrow, with some prelim games and boys and girls soccer over the weekend. A game I'm looking forward to coming up, I'm going to be covering tomorrow night, Skowhegan at Wyndham. We just talked about the Riverhawks and the Eagles. This is a game in Class B North football, a rematch of one of the semifinal games from the conference last year, won by Wyndham 7-6. In a game Skowhegan really let get away. They were inside the Wyndham 10-yard line. I don't know. I mean, over and over and over, and either lost the ball on downs or turned it over, had an extra point blocked in the second half that would have tied the game. I'm sure Skowhegan's going down there to try to, just forget last week's tough loss against Thornton Academy and rally and solidify that number one seed in Class B North. Michael Hoffer, what are you looking forward to covering soon?
Well, I think I already touched on that the South Portland game is going to be very impactful tomorrow, and then there's a lot of playoff action. In fact, the volleyball preliminary round actually started tonight, so that's already underway. We got some potential great boys soccer quarterfinals next week. It's very possible that Deering and Portland could square off. Those are frankly two of the best teams in Class A South, and they might meet in that early round. Yarmouth might have to get past Freeport in the quarterfinals. The Clippers are the two-time defending champs, and they could have easily lost both games to Freeport this year. Both times they trailed within 10 minutes left to win the game. The first time they rallied to win. The second time they rallied to tie. So I think some of these regions you're going to see some upsets. You're going to see some crazy results, and let the fun begin. There's going to be a lot to keep track of here over the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you, Mike Mandel. How about you?
Well, Travis, this week is a reminder, I think, that sometimes the matchups that mean the most aren't necessarily the matchups of the undefeated or the one-loss teams. For example, tomorrow night I'll be at Gardner covering their football game against Mount Blue. 2, 3, and 4 teams, but two teams with great quarterbacks. It should be an interesting matchup, and the winner gets the inside track to that 6th seed and would probably get to avoid Coney in the quarterfinals. Saturday is up in the air for me, but you're looking at a football game between MCI and Winslow that could have an impact in C North. And here's an interesting tidbit. Gardner and Grey New Gloucester play each other in not 1, not 2, but 3 playoff games on Saturday afternoon. That's pretty crazy. I'm not sure I've ever heard of something like that. Maybe that's where I end up, but it's going to be an interesting weekend where we see a lot of things round into place across all sports.
What are the 3 sports Grey New Gloucester and Gardner are facing each other in? Soccer, boys and girls soccer, and what else?
Volleyball.
That's fantastic. That's great. Are they all at one school or the other, or are they going to be mixed up?
I believe they're all at Gardner Area High School.
Oh, that's even better for the fans. If you're a fan of either Gardner or Grey New Gloucester, get your
that's an athletic director's dream right there.
Oh yeah, that's easy. Great. Well, whatever you're a fan of, get yourself out to some playoff games in the coming weeks. Football's finishing up in classes B and C, getting to the playoffs next week. Classes A and D are one more week of regular season, and then we have playoffs starting in 8-man small this week. So wherever you like, whatever sport is tickles your fancy, you can find out all the best coverage in Maine at varsitymaine.com. For Angel, for Mike, for Michael, I'm Travis. Thanks for joining us this week on Varsity Maine Live.